This isn't some Spider-Man Unlimited type situation. The Spectacular Spider-Man is not only one of the best adaptations of the Spider-Man character, but it was a show which taught us lessons. It showed us that having both social and emotional problems and turmoil in high school was normal, and it was okay. The Spectacular Spider-Man reflected its viewers' own experiences, and when it was cancelled, there was nothing more to look forward to or to look back on. Not to sound dramatic. Yes, let's talk about Spider-Man again, specifically the Spectacular Spider-Man. Here I wanted to talk about why the series works, as well as the series' cancellation and the future plans it had. And at the end of the video, I wanted to showcase what a third season of the Spectacular Spider-Man might look like. So I made a fake trailer for the series. Here to help me talk about the series' relationship to the comics is GodzillaMendoza, someone who is very attuned to the Spider-Man comic book side of things. Now I know what you're thinking. You've been wearing black glasses for years, Mauricio. What the hell are you wearing on your face? Why do you look so f***ing sick now? Thanks for asking. That's all thanks to Warby Parker, today's sponsor. Warby Parker was founded to offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price. All the glasses available at Warby Parker are incredibly sleek and affordable. If you go to the website, you can browse eyeglasses, sunglasses, and contact lenses. If you don't know what to look for, all you have to do is take a quiz provided, and Warby Parker will showcase the best that they have that fits your specifications. They have this awesome program called the Home Try-On program, which is why I'm able to wear these incredibly comfortable glasses right now. They mail you a box with your choices and you get to try them on. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. Sunglasses are also available and they look absolutely incredible. Blue light filter lenses are now available and are perfect for those concerned about the effects of blue light. These filter more blue light than standard polycarbonate or high-index lenses and can be added to your order during checkout. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/browntable. That's right, order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation for you to buy them, and it ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. You get all this, just go to warbyparker.com/browntable. So Spider-Man is one of the most influential superheroes of all time. When I mean influential, I mean he's been in countless shows, movies, games, and his merchandise has been sold again and again, and I keep buying it again and again. And again and again. But what is it that really makes Spider-Man a great character? He's a person. And the vast majority of stories that have been told about the web crawler,
public sentiment in favor of the web crawler,
have been told as Peter Parker stories, which reflect the struggles we face in our daily lives, albeit with fantastical characters and superpowers. When Stan Lee was conceptualizing Spider-Man, there's the issue of, this bitch is called Spider-Man. Nobody likes spiders except Australians. How do we sell this character? We have to genuinely make the audience care about him, so let's make him relatable. And that's what I believe the Spectacular Spider-Man gets right. The stories aren't just about Spider-Man kicking ass and saving the day. It's about a man, not even a man yet, a kid, like we've all been, trying to get to school on time, keeping up with his friends, making new friends, and attempting to alter his standing in the social hierarchy.
Before he became Spider-Man, he was really just that wallflower. He wasn't the jock, he wasn't the standout, he wasn't the popular guy. He was really just your regular teenager that this accident just happened to.
Boss, I'd like a word.
How about scram? Or 2 words. Scram kid. Or 17. Get out of my office in 2.3 seconds or I'll staple you to a flagpole.
Like I said in part 1, the creators and writers of the Spectacular Spider-Man weren't just worried about making cool Spider-Man stories, they were worried about making engaging Peter Parker stories. Peter Parker has responsibilities that he must face, and because of this sense of responsibility instilled on him by his uncle, he leaps out towards danger, leaving his personal desires behind. If Peter encounters a problem, it can go one of 2 ways. He can either solve it successfully, or he can fail. These actions that are taken define the character. The series doesn't just understand that Peter has to go out into danger as Spider-Man because he's a hero, but it also understands the repercussions that come with it. Peter becoming Spider-Man and ditching people he cares about isn't a bother, it's a literal curse. His relationships in the show change because he's Spider-Man. People get confused around him. People feel betrayed by him.
Helping Harry must have really tuckered you out.
Oh man, Harry. I totally
Blew me off, Pete!
he has to constantly apologize or lie to keep his double life a secret. And that's where so much of the fun storytelling comes from. The show makes the viewer understand that while Spider-Man saves plenty of lives, the one life it always puts in danger is Peter Parker's. Now, the story of the Spectacular Spider-Man is separated into arcs. Wait a second, is that? These arcs separate what villain Spider-Man is facing, and as the series goes on, it stops becoming a villain of the week type story structure and starts to weave Spider-Man problems in multiple different ways, with villains sometimes clashing with each other. A good example would be the first 4 episodes of Season 2, tying up the Master Planner arc, but during these episodes, Peter encounters Eddie Brock as he's swinging around the city. After this, the next 3 episodes deal with Venom slowly coming back to power, ultimately culminating in the episode Identity Crisis, which wraps up the Venom arc of Season 2. The coolest thing about the writing here is the setup and payoff. Whether they were intentional or not, lots of things that are set up in earlier episodes pay off way later. In Peter's personal life, something as simple as casually name-dropping Mary Jane Watson and then finally revealing her makes all that talk in earlier episodes pay off. With limited time to tell stories, everything matters. And that's why the story flows so well, because if everything's important, then the episode itself is important. And if every episode is important, then you'll be constantly watching, won't you? The creators of The Spectacular Spider-Man had a lot of amazing ideas for the show. Unfortunately, a lot of shit happened. It's called business. Supposedly, I could be getting this wrong, but from what I understand, to get concessions on the movie rights, Sony gave away the license to produce Spider-Man television content to Marvel, which, as we all know, was eventually bought by Disney. Sony still has the story rights and character designs, though. If another season of The Spectacular Spider-Man was to ever get made, the series would have to be a partnership between Sony and Disney, and the likelihood of that happening is pretty much non-existent, but hey, there's always petitions coming up online. Either way, Greg Weisman seems to be the one most in charge of the direction that the series went in, and to me, he completely understands not only the Spider-Man character, but also relationships and the basics of storytelling. I was researching the future of The Spectacular Spider-Man, what the plans were for future seasons essentially, and stumbled upon a few interviews as well as this website called Station 8, which seems to be a fan site for the Gargoyles TV show. In that website, there's an Ask Greg section where people were able to ask questions directly to Greg Weisman about shows, including The Spectacular Spider-Man. But thankfully, I didn't have to compile everything, as this blog called Remarkage did it already, so shout out to Remarkage, y'all are kings. Essentially, what I've been saying this whole time about how The Spectacular Spider-Man was written as a story about a boy growing into a man was right. 65 episodes were to be produced, and in total there would have been 5 seasons. A spring break movie was being planned in between seasons 2 and 3, which would have been about Spider-Man combating the Lizard in Florida, similar to the comics, which would have been amazing in my opinion. The Scorpion and the Hobgoblin would have become major villains for season 3 as well. I'm pretty sure at some point in season 2 the name Gargan is name dropped, and Morbius was also confirmed to eventually appear. According to what Remarkage compiled, Spider Tracers would have become a thing, the Spider-Mobile was also planned. In The Amazing Spider-Man 8, Peter and Flash have a boxing match, and that was something Weisman would have been interested in adapting. Also in the works was a musical episode, which honestly would have been amazing. Roderick Kingsley, who is the Hobgoblin in the comics, would have become very important in season 3, and it seems like he has a twin brother, like in the comics as well, which I assume would have been important in identifying the Hobgoblin in season 3. In an interview about Miles Warren, a character who eventually becomes the Jackal in the comics, Greg Weisman said, "He doesn't do anything by accident, and like I said before, everything in the series happened for a reason. If a DVD movie didn't plan out, they would have just incorporated the story into one of the seasons, so the DVD movie wasn't just another cash grab, it was supposed to be essential to the story. There were supposed to be DVD movies covering Peter's college years." But let me ask you something. How the heck did the Spider-Man writers come up with all the incredible stories to tell? Don't actually answer, that was a rhetorical question. The answer is... Spider-Man has existed for decades. It's absolutely crazy, and because of that, he has countless stories to explore. Like I said in part 1, Spider-Man left high school in issue 28 of the Amazing Spider-Man run. Spider-Man has never been defined by high school. He's usually always portrayed as a college student or full-on adult. But the Spectacular Spider-Man chooses to set the story in high school, to tell a story about a kid with superpowers growing up and learning new things about adulthood along the way until he finally leaves high school, which never happens because the series was cancelled.
Am I not supposed to have what I want?
And the series takes full advantage of its setting. It helps establish characters and it keeps them in contact because they're forced to stay in one place together as well. And the series really fleshes out every single side character thanks to this. It's incredible to see how Flash Thompson grows as a character. And then even a smaller character like Sally Averill is one note, but then they write her a big emotional moment in the second season. To talk more about comic book Spider-Man, I brought in Spider-Man comic book expert GodzillaMendoza. Take it away.
Spider-Man has had a pretty successful run at animated adaptations over the years, barring the more recent exceptions. I think Spectacular stands in a league of its own because the writing team understood how many times the character had been reimagined before and played that to their advantage. Between the classic vision of Lee and Ditko or the contemporary reimagining of Bendis and Bagley, Spidey's had a lot of different tellings about the specifics of his story, while keeping the overall message and themes the same. Spectacular does a wonderful job of picking and choosing all the best parts from various comics over the generations and melding them together into something that both feels like a tribute to those comics and feels like its own thing. Let me explain this using one character in particular. Eddie Brock, aka, he's like a fusion of both 616's 80s interpretation of Venom and the younger early 2000s Ultimate incarnation. He resembles original Eddie as a physically imposing, intelligent guy with a strong sense of right and wrong. He resembles Ultimate Eddie with a more personal connection to Peter as a childhood friend. He's also a scientist and college student with big ambitions for his future. What this show does brilliantly is throws out the weaker aspects of both of those comic versions. 616 Eddie's motivation to attack Spider-Man was flimsy and nonsensical. I was trying to catch a serial killer, but it turns out the guy that I caught was the wrong guy and you caught the real killer instead. Clearly you did this to humiliate me and you're a bad person. Meanwhile, Ultimate Eddie is more of a sniveling, petty jerk that's rude to girls and skates through life expecting to be a winner all the time as payback for all he's lost. But he's motivated by what he perceives as an intense personal betrayal from Peter, where a friend lied to him and pushed him to the edge of his sanity by breaking a very sacred trust and stealing the suit, the legacy of their parents.
Our fathers died to create me. Now you will too.
So what does Spectacular do? It takes the compelling and more likable personality traits of both of these guys, mashes them together, and gives them a more interesting motivation. Essentially, he's the best parts of both, and Venom is the tip of the iceberg. All of this show's villains and sidecast mix and match these comic interpretations to some extent, with a healthy handful of influences from the Raimi trilogy as well to fill in any gaps. It's the first Spidey adaptation to really try to develop Flash Thompson's character arc from bully to eventual friend of Peter from the original comics. While Spectacular's version of Harry Osborn is a bit of a mix of Ultimate, him and Peter meet up in high school and he's a rich kid going to a smaller public school to feel normal, but his design and personality are more directly from his 616 interpretation. They even handled his drug problem in this series while dodging the censors that come with making a Saturday morning cartoon. Doc Ock being an abused and belittled Oscorp employee who wants to finally stand up for himself? Ultimate. It's beautiful how this show pulls from both sources of material so regularly that fans of either or both series will recognize tons of ideas, characters, and story choices. And yet, Spectacular somehow still feels unique. And that's in no small part to the times when the show plays with your expectations by doing something neither of these books did. This is the ideal way to make a Spidey cartoon. The key isn't to just throw out the source material and say we'll exclusively do something different, but it's also not just to go frame by frame, word for word. Because then we'd have like 3 seasons of a Clone Saga arc, or a season finale of One More Day, or Eddie Brock would just disappear entirely one day after fighting Gwen Stacy as Carnage, and then Peter would date Kitty Pryde for 40 episodes of filler, or an episode where Carnage goes to the negative zone to find a clone of his symbiote to replace the first symbiote that Venom ate that one time, and also Spider-Man was wearing the Unlimited cartoon costume for some reason that's not explained. You get the idea. The comics have had their ups and downs, but Spectacular made strides to pay tribute to all of those high points whenever possible. And that's why we love it so much.
I think that's the key word. Love. This series was made with love by the creators, and it's loved by the countless fans who would tune in every single day, desperately anticipating a new episode. And the series would have eventually seen Peter and Mary Jane getting married at the very end, but none of us ever got to see that. But at least we know that it was planned, and we know that the character would be treated with respect if the series ever continued. While of course it keeps things light as it's a show aimed at kids, the show crafts an intriguing story with characters that you love and love to hate. And by understanding the core of who Peter Parker is and what he fights for, the spectacular Spider-Man excels in not just being a great TV show, but an excellent adaptation of the Spider-Man story. So I wanted to pay a little tribute to the series, making a faux trailer to see what a third season might look like, and also paying tribute to the series as a whole by casually singing a little song, and thank you all for helping me with that part. Well then, Chads and Spider fans, let's knock 'em dead.
Say hello to the new big man.
I wanted to let you know, Peter, I've been getting emails from Harry Osborn.
Gwen, you're the one I want to be with.
I've been looking for you. The so-called spectacular Spider-Man.
Whoa! The Green Goblin?
Oh no, not the Green Goblin.
Living on the edge, fighting crime, spinning web, swinging from the highest edge, she can leap above her head. I'm gonna take it off. Spectacular, spectacular Spider-Man. Spectacular, spectacular Spider-Man. Spectacular.
Well, hello there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go check out GodzillaMendoza's channel. He's a true Chad. I killed myself making this video, man. More specifically, the animation bit, that was incredibly rough, but I think it came out pretty good, not gonna lie. I wish I could do more, but I'd rather use that time to animate the anime-influenced animated series I'm working on, Interstellar Ranger Commence. Link in the description if you don't know what I'm talking about. Thank you to everyone who submitted a video singing the Spider-Man theme. That takes massive guts, and it's amazing to see fans of a series come together to show their appreciation. Thank you so much, patrons, as well. Much love to you all for supporting me during these times especially, and I hope you enjoyed the early access to the video. I have a Discord and a subreddit. The Discord's going great, the mods are great, and the subreddit is pretty much dead, so it'd be great to see that alive again. But, you know, no pressure or anything. Now, if you've not subscribed, you can subscribe and become a Chad. We're the wholesome fua type of Chad, and not the cringe type of Chad, keep that in mind. So thank you very much for coming to the table, and I'll see you all next time.